are halfway through our SIP Fair 2018. So we have our next group coming up, Group C, but before they start, I'm gonna get you pumped up. When I say group, you say C. Group
C.
Group
C.
Weak. Let's try that again. When I say group, you say C. Group
C.
Group
C.
Q. Let's get Group C started. Game design, game art and animation, and game programming. Front row, our experts, Professor Understiller, Professor Clark, Professor Portillo, and Professor Markwitt.
Go.
A light stone.
Hi, my name is Bart Driscoll. I'm the project lead of Project Dualhon.
My name is John Goodall, and I'm one of the artists on the team.
Hi, my name is Gil Hockey. I'm also one of the artists on the team.
Hey, I'm Greg Shostov, one of the third artists on the team.
And then we also have a programmer, Alex Wall, working with us on the team. Project Dualhon is a task to try and innovate on the more repetitive gameplay and action platformers by adding a more asynchronous two-player mechanic to the game.
We decided to go for more of a classic feel for the game, so we went with a 2D pixel art style for our platformer.
Yeah, we wanted to bring the retro feel back to roguelike platformers, like back in the 80s, 90s. When we got our idea, it took us months of refinement to bring what we have for Dualhon to what it is now.
See you in the comments.
See ya.
So with most action platformer co-op games, you'll find that most of the different players in the game are going to have a very identical playstyle and gameplay loop. The only difference between most of the players and most of those games is the cosmetics between the players. This leads to, well, while most of these co-op games are arguably more fun than just playing by yourself, especially when it's couch co-op because the person's right next to you. But because of how identical both their gameplays are, it could lead to a lot of repetitiveness and the players getting bored and them just not really seeing why it needs to be multiplayer. With our game, we decided to try and innovate on this genre to try and show a way to fix this problem or issue on repetitive gameplay.
Yeah, so speaking more on the innovation on it, Dualhon's main innovation comes from our asymmetrical co-op gameplay, specifically with how we tied in the game mechanics into the characters. So rather than having two players play as two separate characters in a co-op game, we actually have two players controlling the same character, as you can see right here. So the Dualhon is split into the head of the Dualhon and also the body of the Dualhon. This brings in two different types of gameplay, which is where our asymmetrical gameplay comes from. So the body is the bruiser character. They're the ones that's doing all the damage, all the main fighting, while the head is the support character, so they're the one casting abilities, helping the body fight the enemies, keep them alive, etc. So, as we can see on here, we have our camera loop, so the players can actually play completely independently of one another. However, they do need to come back with each other, otherwise they will die because you can't fully play the game independently of one another. You still have to teamwork, coordinate with one another, otherwise you will die.
So our game project is being created in the Unity game engine, and we made all of our pixel art through Photoshop. I made sound effects, which you can't hear here, unfortunately, but made that in VFXer, and our target platform is PC. Our target audience is for those people that enjoy co-op games, especially couch co-op, as Bart alluded to earlier. While there are other co-op games that do have interesting co-op mechanics, such as Solstice and Brofence, our game innovates on this a lot, and we really focus on having a lot of communication and teamwork between both players. As you can see, both players share the same health bar, So you require really, really tight communication to ensure that you survive combat.
Yeah, speaking of teamwork, our team has plenty of history working on other projects and overcoming challenges in the past. And we're really excited to present this game where it's super fun and innovative in terms of how the style is played. And we're happy to see you guys outside after the presentation for a live demo. Thank you.
Okay, so working with you guys, I know your original idea got changed quite a bit. Going through the process, tell me about what you guys learned from the process of finding something innovative in your original idea and how you got from A to this B.
Well, it of course started with a lot of bouncing ideas back and forth. But to find the idea that really stuck, we more looked at some of our experiences just playing games, as well as our experience making them, and looking at what are some things that we found fun, but wish that were also in other games as well.
Excellent. So you're showing some real maturity in your sprite animations. Your art is looking really good. The question is, you all are excellent 3D modelers. What made you choose this style?
Simply because this would have been a much larger project to do in 3D and taken a lot more time. So we decided to do pixel art. Is a lot easier for us to do, and we can get the main idea across for the game rather than do 3D.
Especially with the time presented that we had.
And with the target genre being finally switching over to a more action platformer, it felt better to do it as a 2D side-scroller than a 3D game, and we decided to go with pixel instead of something more like vector art.
Definitely appeals to the target demographic, which is typically ages between 13 and 25.
It's very appealing. Can you just give us a rundown on who was responsible for what art?
Sure. So I was responsible for doing the main character sprite and animations for attacking. I also created the particle effects for using abilities.
So I did all of the environment tiles. I also did like half the props, the barrels, the bases, pods, cages, chains, to go along with the environment tiles.
Yeah, I worked on a lot of the UI elements that you see here, as well as the other half of the props, and the enemy animations, as well as just the enemy style for our Dualhan to fight.
And Bart, I didn't mean to leave you out. Can you give us a brief overview?
Yes, so I was the other half of the main concepting and documentation of the game. Greg was the other half. He helped me out a lot with that. On top of that, I did most of the level designing and setting up everything, set designing, and actually building level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tyler Osborne, and I am the product owner and lead designer for Battleground Legacy.
Hi, my name is Darby Turner, and I am the lead artist for Battleground Legacy.
Battleground Legacy is a trading card game that prioritizes the first turn over anything else. Many other games, such as Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic, stuff like that, have really poor ways of deciding who goes first. Battleground Legacy fixes this by allowing both players to go first, and then decide upon depending on who's their army on the field, to decide upon who goes first. I know that for the project for a while, I didn't have an artist until Darby came along, and she's been a great addition to the team, and it was really good.
It was a process because designers don't know what they mean by stylized. So designing the art for the project was a bit of a struggle, but we both got it through.
And now the product's ready to go, and we can't wait to share it to you.
So, imagine playing a game where you had 67% chance of losing before you even had your first turn. Like I said in the video, many card games have issues with these first turn win conditions. Battleground Legacy fixes this. So for our product, we have the Power of Magic, which is a starter deck to allow people to get into the game and understand how to play the game. So in the starter deck, you get the deck itself, you get a playmat, and you get a rulebook. So, since I talked about the first turn mechanic, because that is our innovation, let's kind of go through the step-by-step process of what makes our game unique. So, the very first step is the preparation step. The preparation step is when you put your avatar, also known kind of like your general of the army, into its particular zone, as well as you shuffle your deck and you draw your starting hand. After that, it then goes into the stockpile phase. Again, remember, both players are doing this at the same time, but they cannot do anything to each other, they're just getting their armies ready. So stockpile, similar to mana in Magic or Hearthstone, is the resource of the game. In order to play cards from your hand, you need stockpile to play them. So since that's the first thing you need to do, that is the first step. After that is our inventory cards. Inventory cards are similar to like sorceries or magic cards where they're one-use times. You play them in the blank spots just to show your opponent that you're using it. After the effect is resolved, it then just goes straight to the graveyard. The next step is the equipment step. The equipment cards are similar, again, to permanents. They stay in one of their 4 areas, and they remain on the field after being activated and being played from the hand. This allows you to extend your combo plays and really interacts with the avatar and the rest of the game in and of itself. The last phase is the monster phase. Since we actually remove monsters from the main deck, they're in their own separate deck and are summoned out by using card effects from the main deck. So by doing this, if by chance a main card from the main deck summoned a monster out, you can then activate its effect during this step. After both players have set up their fields, it then goes into deciding who goes first. And this is where the innovation really takes place. By looking at which player has the least amount of resources in a particular order determines who goes first. It then first checks with stockpile, whoever has less goes first. If the same, then it goes to monsters and equipment cards on the field. If that's the same again, it then goes to cards in hand and graveyard. And then finally, if that's the same, it then goes down to rock, paper, scissors, or roll the dice, which really gives a tactical element, allowing players to think about, do I want to set up my turn for free and not have to worry about my opponent, or do I want to limit myself now and get that first turn advantage? I will now hand it off to Darby to really talk about her contributions.
All right, I'll be handing out some copies of our cards, so here you go. Would you like a copy as well? I have one more stack, if you would like it. The first card I worked on in the entire series was the Gifted Prodigy card. This should be one of the first ones in the stack. I used it to establish the style of the game, as well as practice coloring and lighting effects such as the teal at the end of her wand, which is prominent throughout the entire deck, such as the major card, the Avatar, the General, the Scroll of the Arcane Elders. I really wanted to expand on her and this entire Magic world, but I wasn't too sure how to do this until I came to do the Magician in Training card. The Magician in Training was told to me by Ozzy to be a student taking a test. And this is where I got the idea, hey, the Gifted Prodigy and the Magician in Training can't be classmates. So I took aspects from her design and sort of integrated it into the Magician in Training, and as well as into the other students you can see in the Magician's Orientation card. Also in the Magician's Orientation card, you can see a sort of older figure kind of presiding over the audience, which is supposed to represent their principal. And the other cards that don't include these children also could be professors or tutors. And I also really included kind of Easter eggs. You can see the Gifted Prodigy and Magician Training in other cards, such as the Stockpile, which I really wanted to tie in and show the audience that there is a story there, and you need to sort of kind of shift through it and think a little and have a little bit of imagination to see the full magical world I presented in the deck.
We hope to see you outside and play test our game. Thank you.
So one of the important aspects of really kind of shipping a product, whether it's a video game electronically or a board game, is getting proper play testing.
Yes.
And being acquainted with you, I've seen you take this to a lot of public spaces.
Yes.
And you've gotten some feedback.
Yes.
So based off those experiences, like what is the most valuable feedback you've given from either light gamers that enjoy these types of games, or people that just don't even play this in general? What was the biggest feedback you've gotten? How did you actually pivot and apply that to where you're at today?
Yeah, the biggest feedback that I got was the fact that it really no one ever felt that they lost because they went second. Like a lot of these games where I lost because I didn't throw rock, I lost because I didn't get the coin flip, or I didn't get the dice roll. A lot of these games, because the first turn has so much of an advantage, because your opponent cannot respond to you, many decks have exploded on the first turn, and then they just go to their opponent and go, come on, see if you can break my board. And by allowing both players to go first, no one feels at a disadvantage. They had the tactical ability to either set up their turn, their board without interference, or they took the disadvantage and tried to go first, and then had to deal with any responses from their opponent.
So you guys had very distinct roles, obviously game designer, game artist.
Yes.
And I know Darby mentioned something in the video of, the designers don't really know what they meant by stylized.
Yes.
What did you guys learn about the opposite side, right? What did you learn about design? What did you learn about art by working with each other?
I guess I didn't realize how much thought went into actual mechanics, because when you're playing a game, you're like, okay, that's how that works. But you don't realize the thought process that goes in behind that. And even when he was setting up the rule book, he was color coding everything and making sure stuff had numbers. And I'm like, what are you doing? So it was a really interesting experience to kind of see the thought process behind some of the final decisions, because I only ever really see the final decisions.
And then for seeing art, it's really amazing to see just a concept, an idea really take shape. I literally gave her one sentence kind of descriptions of what I had in my head, and then just seeing her go from line art to color splotches to the finalized piece, it was just, holy crap, this is, it's really amazing to see that. And it really just, if anyone ever says, oh, it doesn't take a lot of time to do, no. If you put your time and effort into it, it can take a week, 2 weeks to get a really nice art piece.
More in here.
They don't want yours.
It's theirs, but okay. That's good.
Hi, my name is Tristan Hutchins. This is Dominic Kane and Alex Velasquez, and we're excited to announce our game project titled Operation Red Rhino. We've been working under Cuban Medic LLC for a little over a year with a small team in Unreal Engine.
Operation Red Rhino is a first-person shooter that aims to emulate the battlefield in a realistic way, and by doing that, it puts progression in the hands of the player.
Our primary innovation for this project is our node system. And our node system, like Dom said, it puts the objective progression in the hands of the players. Each map has its own objective and its own playstyle, and part of our goal is to allow the players to control this entirely on their end. The winning team gets to pick what map goes next, what objective style goes next, and the battlefield just based on that.
We hope you continue to follow us on our journey, and we're excited to announce this project.
That's not the right way? Okay. All right, we're going to talk about it anyway. Okay. So what if we, as game developers, decided to offer complete and total control over the flow of a game from level to level, and we just put that all entirely in the hands of the players? What sort of choices might they make, and what strategies might arise from developing, from going from map to map? What sort of strategies might happen, and how might other players respond to this? These questions have been at the heart of Operation Red Rhino as we've been developing for this last year. And we've really been trying to create a game that just offers that total control, because we don't really like games where we're locked into playing maybe a payload style map. We don't want to play that. We want to play capture the flag. So we really wanted to give that choice to players. And our project's been pitched and approved actually last semester by Alex Watson He's our lead designer, and since that's happened, we've really been working on refining and improving what was built upon last semester, and just all the maps that are a part of it. Level design is a big part of our philosophy. And our node system, which you can scroll down all the way. So our node system right there, that's a look at our overarching map, our map for the match. And players will start off in the start node in the very center, and the victor of that match, it's a very small close quarters battle, the victor of that gets to determine where they go to next. And each node has different objectives and different gameplay styles tied to it, and it's kind of up to the player where they get to go. So the Saboteur node, for example, gives the player access to a certain class, and they also give some buffs or debuffs if you lose towards the match. So if you lose the Saboteur node, you're going to start off with less ammo in the next match. Say if you win the Grenadier node, though, you get access to the Grenadier class for the rest of the match. And so this really allows the players to sort of choose where they want to pick up what buffs they want to, and then proceed towards the base node, which is their ultimate goal. Dom, you can go ahead and talk about the roles next.
Thanks. The roles or the rewards and classes are, there's 7 different classes in our game here. You can you start off with 3, and then you can unlock the rest of them throughout winning nodes or capturing them. That's good. But a good example is that if you win a node, you get the Grenadier node, say, and then you can, as the defending team, you can use it to defend off the attacking waves of the attackers. But if you have the Grenadier node and you're attacking them, you can use it to open up different routes or different pathways to come up with different strategies to attack the enemy and try to win the node or win the base. And then when you win these nodes, you get different resources from them, like classes, ammo, and guns, and you can use them to either like hold them or try to deprive the enemy and starve them out pretty much and get better rewards. Also, the node system pairs really well with this because with the map constantly changing, it's just like a battlefield. You never really know what's going to happen next. But yeah, that's interesting.
All right, thanks, Dom. So our target demographic is what you might expect for a game like Operation Red Rhino. We're really seeking to capture an audience that loves military first-person shooters. To reference some others, there's Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Medal for Honor. But those are also the games that we really seek to differentiate from. Each of those games and others, such as CSGO and Squad, all have a very linear, straightforward style of gameplay. They all have one map and one objective, and you're just sticking to that one goal. Which is where we really want to create a new experience in Operation Red Rhino through the node system. The setting of our game takes place in the 1960s during the Congo crisis in the heart of the African jungle. It serves as a front for the U.S. versus the Soviet Union, and they were fighting over the uranium mines in the area. We're really committed to creating a historically accurate game, both visually and in function. And to ensure that this happens, we've really heavily researched the time period, the weapons, the clothing, and just the overall atmosphere of the game. And also to ensure this happens, Dom and I have created a majority of the assets seen in Operation Red Rhino. We hope you are as excited for it as we are, and thank you for your time.
So on larger teams, we usually like to ask what you guys were responsible for on the project and how that relates back to the innovation itself. So if you guys would like to each...
You want to start?
Go.
I'll start. So I was level designing the project. I came in actually in fall semester, so I wasn't on the game from the start. But I came in and I jumped in on level design. And level design is really at the heart of this game because levels themselves are at the heart of this game. And having various different levels and different types of objective, it really allowed me to express a lot of the different ideas I had. So early this semester, I was working on a payload style map, and so that they would advance through 3 different nodes, and they'd be pushing a payload and go back and forth. Another map that I worked on was a command point capture map. So I've been working on maps. I think I worked on 3 from concept, from like paper map to built node, and I've helped on a few more. I don't actually know how many I helped on, but I helped on the other ones, and we've really been polishing those up this semester.
Yeah, I mean, I was on it from the start. Alex came to me pretty much like day one with the idea, and I ran with him with it. So I mean, I've been on pretty much every single one of the maps. I've paper mapped them all, made a ton of art assets that are in the game. I've pretty much helped build the team like from the start. I mean, there was just 4 of us in the first team, and we had like 13 at one point. So yeah, so I mean, I've been there from the beginning.
So I was acting art lead on the team for a little while, and I was just an overall general artist. I worked on props, animations, retargeting the animations. I worked on modular pieces throughout the environment and repeating textures, but my direct contribution to the innovation claim itself was the weapons for the classes unlocked throughout the node system.
Hello, my name is Brandon Merrill. I'm a game art and animation student. My project is Call Center Simulator, which is an MMO virtual reality first-person shooter using dart guns. The innovation claim for Call Center Simulator is we basically reimagined the movement system to help alleviate motion sickness. My role is initially was the art lead, and now I'm mainly focused on making dart guns. It's been really great the past few months working with this team. They've been really helpful and supportive, and I'm excited to be working on this project because it lets me expand on my skills and show off what I can do. Thank you, and I will see you in the Commons to show you my game.
So according to Business Insider, virtual reality market is expected to grow from $2 billion to over $26 billion with a compound annual growth rate of 54% between now and 2022.
What is the primary purpose?
Virtual reality has even made itself more prominent in popular culture with the recent release of Ready Player One. With sound, please.
Further and truly experience our fantasy worlds to the absolute limit that our technology will allow. In virtual reality, immersion is achieved by experiencing the game world free from the constraints of a desktop monitor. And while most objects are interactable, oftentimes weapon mechanics remain the same as they do in all other video games. Other virtual reality first-person shooter games, like Super Hot VR and Fallout 4 VR, use the traditional reloading style. In these games, players pick up ammo automatically just by being close to it. The player presses a button and the reloading animation plays and the gun is ready to fire with no other input. With Call Center Simulator VR, weapon functionality was designed to mimic their real-life counterparts and aims to take immersion one step further. The player must pick up ammo, reload, prime, and fire the weapon manually, all with their own separate actions. These guns were modeled in 3ds Max, textured in Substance Painter, and integrated into the build in Unity. The modeling process was the same as it would be for any other game weapon. Concept art and real-life Nerf guns were used to design the look and feel of each gun. But instead of being rigged and animated, each moving part of the gun was adjusted so it could be programmed to function with player input. With this functionality in mind, our target demographic is anyone who plays VR games and is looking to take immersion to the next level, whether that be seasoned VR players or new players who are looking for their first VR experience. Call Center Simulator offers exactly the level of immersion that players are looking for when they play VR games. Currently, notable competition for Call Center Simulator is Fallout 4 VR, which has very limited interactions with weapons, Super Hot VR, in which players only pick up already loaded weapons from enemies, and Arizona Sunshine, where players must manually pick up ammo, but reloading is still done with the push of a button. While each of these games is unique in its own right, they fall short when it comes to interactive weapon mechanics, and these mechanics are vital for a virtual reality first-person shooter to succeed. As a United States Marine with extensive weapons experience, my goal in designing weapons for Call Center Simulator was interactive realism. Virtual reality is just that, a digital approximation of real life, and its fundamental purpose is immersion. The realistic interactive weapon mechanics found in Call Center Simulator brings new experiences into virtual reality games and can change the very core of the virtual reality first-person shooter genre. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you in the Commons to tell you more about my artistic contribution to Call Center Simulator. What is the primary purpose?
So it looks like there was a lot of assets, a lot of things created for that game. What is your plans to put out Call Center Simulator?
So our team is currently working on a couple of other projects at the moment, but we do plan to pick this back up and it will be released on Steam as soon as we're ready.
So yeah, Brandon, throughout your educational career here at UAT, you worked on multiple projects, 2D and 3D and so forth. So I'm assuming this is your first VR experience, right?
Yeah, so this is my first VR game. I'm actually still working with the team on a couple of others, but this actually opened up a lot of opportunities, and I never even imagined that I'd be working on anything VR. I didn't even consider it, but it's a really great experience to be on this team and work on this project.
What do you find the most valuable in terms of the biggest learning experience going into from 2D to 3D to the VR space?
It really it shows that you can do a lot more immersive things. You want to build things that are different based on that immersion.
Limited on materials here. So. Hi there. My name is Parker Smith, and I'm here today to present my student innovation project, CForge. CForge is a tutoring service intended to teach a new generation of novice game developers. The innovation of this project stems from teaching with a focus on feature-driven design principles in order to promote critical thinking among students and to emphasize the relationship between the roles of programmer and designer. I know that there are lots of aspiring young game developers out there who would benefit greatly from having a mentor to help them develop their skills. I want to cultivate that drive to create among a new generation of programmers and designers and give them an opportunity that I wish I had at a younger age. Thank you all for your time. I hope you enjoy the presentation. How's it going? Hey everybody, so yeah, like I said, I'm here to present for CForge Tutoring Services. My emphasis is on teaching game programming using feature-driven development principles. So, just want to give a quick rundown of my background and why this is important to me. I've been teaching in various STEM capacities for about the last 6 years, ever since my last year of high school. I worked for ID Tech for 3 years over the summers, and yeah, just had a lot of good experience teaching in that way. And in the fall of 2016, one of the parents of one of my students contacted me and said, hey, is there any way you would be looking to do this year-round? And that was sort of where this idea got started. So, in short, CForge is just a private in-home tutoring service that focuses on teaching middle school to high school age students about game design and programming. This is done primarily by collaborating with students on projects, giving them creative control of things, and just being there to provide technical support, teach them about the back end of that, teach them how to program it and make it work. So the innovation from this comes from combining personalized instruction with an industry methodology known as feature-driven development, which I hope to instill good practices among, like I said, a new generation of game developers. I chose feature-driven development because I found, well, for two reasons. One is that it's, One is that it's very feature-based. Your objective is to make a feature, get it out there so that the consumer can see it and see how it affects the project. The other is that it really illustrates the relationship between how the project is designed and how the project is programmed. So really fast, I want to go over the methodology that I use to teach. As the project is beginning, I sit down with the student and just start by writing out two documents. The first is a standard design document, just getting ideas out there on paper. The second is a feature list, which determines the order in which things will be developed. Go back. Okay, so each of those features gets turned into a lesson plan. That lesson plan starts with the scenario, which is just an overview of, okay, how far along are we in the project, what is the basic design philosophy, just so we keep that in mind as we go forward. Then I move into starting to develop the feature with the student. That starts with what I call design analysis, where we just look at, I just ask a couple of questions to see what the student has in mind for this particular feature of the project, and just get an idea for what they want this mechanic to feel like, how they want this to play. Next, I move into a couple of proposed solutions. These are things I would prepare ahead of time just to, as different methods of accomplishing the same goal. They might have different design ramifications, but just having a bunch of different solutions prepared that they can choose from. Then we would move into implementing each of these proposed solutions, and just so they can see how each one will work in engine as we're developing. And after that, move into what I call post-implementation analysis, where we choose which one of these is the best going forward, which one fits best with the philosophy that they had laid out in the design document. After that, we would just finalize all that, get all the bugs ironed out, and move into playing the next feature along the line. So this is a demonstration, kind of what I'm talking about having multiple programming methods. Just click to insert this. I've got a quick little demonstration of two different movement methods. One of them responds immediately to player input. The other is more physics and momentum based. While it seems like a small thing, that will have a major effect on how the game is perceived. Like, say if you're playing two different platformers like Mario and Mega Man, the movement in those is fundamentally different. One of them is much sharper, the other is more momentum based, and that affects how the game is played. As you can see, these are also programmed differently. So essentially, I want to establish sort of a breadth of knowledge among students and just expose them to a lot of different ways of doing things, and because that's what programming is. There are a lot of ways to do something, and there's not just one solution that fits every case. So what would come next in this project? What I want to do is sort of refine this method. As I said, I've been doing this for a little while, and this method's kind of come out of that. I want to refine it and, again, iron out anything that I need to fix and, improve upon it. Next, I want to shoot for a wider audience, start putting feelers out there, gauging what the overall interest is for a program like this. If there's enough interest, I would look to start a company with this and look into hiring more tutors that would be interested in doing this. That's about it. Thank you for your time.
So clearly you share a passion to teach, as the rest of us. But as far as the idea, you talked about, well, if I could do this, if. Is this the path that you want to go down? Is this what you can see yourself doing, growing a business like this, or are you looking to go in the game industry, do something in particular, or both? What is really your plans with this?
My plan for this is just, as of right now, doing this and building up just other projects on the side, just to build up a portfolio and continue applying.
What would be your main goal, though? What would you want to happen if you could choose?
Completely honest, that's not something I've considered.
Honest answer.
You mentioned some things that you would like to fix. Can you elaborate on that?
So, primarily the sort of thing that kept coming to mind when I was coming up with this was, having worked with kids, I know that, well, not necessarily kids, just younger people, I know that they tend not to have a lot of patience, and I know that sometimes going through a couple of cycles of implementation could get a little bit old if they're not seeing the result, which is one of the reasons I liked feature-driven development, because it lets them see quickly what effect what they're doing has on the final product. There we go. So really, that was something that was kind of a concern, was just how do I keep students engaged with this?
All right.
Hello, my name is Ashley Bangs, and I am on the Project Morpheus. Many people believe, including myself, that they feel more accomplished figuring out how to do something without being first told what to do. At Morpheus, we strive to create a game that lets the players learn on their own and accomplish tasks without being helped with the use of dialogue, text, or tutorials. Morpheus is a third-person adventure game that takes place in a surreal world, full of puzzles and shapeshifting. Morpheus is a game full of puzzles with more than one possible way to solve them. It is up to the player to solve and interpret them.
All right, you should be good to go. I'm muted, I think. All right, Ashley, you are ready to go.
All right. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Bangs, and I would like to introduce you all to Morpheus. Tired of reading endless text and dialogue, tired of smashing buttons to skip past those tutorials, only to end up pressing it too much and having to cycle through the entire thing all over again? If you are like me, you have gone through this at least once. Tutorials and games seem more like unavoidable text that can seem a bit overwhelming at times, but most of the time they can make the gameplay feel dry and something that you have to do instead of something you have fun doing. Figuring out how to do something without being told to do or how to do it can make you feel more accomplished, smart, like you have achieved something, and this is what we strive to do at Morpheus. Morpheus is a 3D adventure-style game centered around puzzles and shapeshifting. It is set in a surreal world that is interpretive, so it's up to you to figure out the meaning. Morpheus challenges players to find a solution to problems and puzzles from multiple solutions without it being spelled out for them. The game is purely visual. No text, no tutorials, no GUI, just you and the world. These are a few of my contributions to this amazing innovation. In Morpheus, you are able to shapeshift into different forms with different sets of abilities to solve problems. There are different areas or zones in Morpheus, and each area focuses on an ability of certain forms. This is some of the concept maps I helped develop with Poison Peaks. The area for the Aqua Slime. There are different puzzles in Poison Peaks that will introduce the player to different abilities for the slime. In Poison Peaks, there are fire spirits that move about interacting with the environment. These animated images I have made to better communicate the mechanic of both the fire spirit and the slime interactions. The image to the left shows the path the spirit would take near this rock if it sees the player. And the image to the right shows the interaction of cornering the spirit in water to catch it. This is an example of a solution of catching the spirits. The image shows that you can corner a spirit by performing a split ability to block the spirit's path. One of the challenges in the peaks is the boss fight. A puzzle-based boss fight focusing on all the abilities the player would have learned exploring and solving the puzzles around the peaks. When the boss fight begins, the boss summons 6 pots, which fire spirits immediately inhabit. As soon as the spirit inhabits the pots, they will begin to run away from the player, and the player will have to catch them. The image covers the mechanic of catching the spirit and releasing it from the pot. The slime would be used to spray the pot in order to convert the spirit from fire to raining. The spirit will have to be broken out of the pot. And here I have the hero break the pot open with her sword, and the spirit will reign over the boss. After all 6 spirits have been converted and freed, they will all gather around the boss pot to reign over it. This will cause the boss pot to get angry and thrash. Breaking the island, summoning pots and lava vents, and converting the spirit back to fire spirits. The spirits will then flee back into the pots, and this marks the beginning of stage 2 of the boss fight. In this stage, the slime can spray lava, the lava vents causing pressure of water to build up from underneath the pot, spraying the boss. The boss would break up islands and platforms more, and this would transition to stage 3. This image depicts the design of the next stage. Positions of all the spirits and lava vents, and lava would move platforms down the lava belt, carrying materials for the boss pot to make new pots. I hope everyone will get a chance to check out this amazing game made by incredible people, and I hope you all enjoy this. Thank you so much.
So Ashley, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very loud. This is Matthew Marquardt. You have, I've looked at your work before. And I told you I absolutely love those little animations you do. For design, I think they're very unique. What is your process for creating those little kind of visual design animations?
Well, we start by discussing how the mechanic would work. And I start by kind of creating sketches on them about how I think it would work, or if I came up with an idea. It's easier to convey with an image than just describing it through text, because I think pictures are. It's easier for it's also easier for the programmers to see how I want the idea to be conveyed. Does that make sense? Yeah. Where instead of saying, the spirit will run away, and you can use the split ability to stop them, showing an image is a better understanding for everybody on the team.
Awesome, thanks.
Hi Ashley, Professor Portillo. It's good to finally hear your voice and can attach your voice to a chain of emails. This whole time I thought you were a robot. Finally hear your voice. So, working remotely, I know there's a lot of challenges that you can face, whether it's, working in a 5-week modality opposed to 15-week. What are some issues that kind of more or less, or challenges that surface, whether it's communication or utilizing tech, and how are we able to solve those issues to help the evolution of your innovation claim?
Working remotely has been difficult, especially with having a crazy schedule at work. But utilizing stuff like communication hubs like Discord, and using Google Drive to share documents has really made it possible, honestly. And everybody has been so helpful to me, where they'll answer all my questions and we can collaborate, and we'll always have the conversation text there. So it's always notes for later of what we've discussed. I'm sorry, I'm terrified. It's helped just kind of by scheduling around it and seeing when anybody's available to talk. It helps that even though if they're not available right away, we can just leave messages back and forth, and we can get back to them when we're able to. It all comes down to time management.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Kyrie Francis, and I'm the creator of Tactics Fighter. Tactics Fighter is a 2D sprite-based competitive multiplayer strategy game. It pits not only player knowledge and strategy, but also their mechanical skills to the test. Players' decisions of what units to fight with and where to fight with them is key to overcoming their opponents in battle. In this setting, players will be forced to pick the most favorable locations and the most favorable matchups between their one-on-one duels between their pawns. By combining fighting game elements with a traditional turn-based strategy game, Tactics Fighter can reach new ground and offer an in-depth experience like no other game. Engaging the player in both strategy and execution allows Tactics Fighter to tap into players' inner drives to compete and become their very best. Players can make their custom armies from a variety of characters, forcing players to always adapt to their opponents and keep a close eye on the battlefield, always preparing to fight, but always thinking of their next move. I hope players will enjoy their intense chess-like one-on-one matches just as I've enjoyed creating them. Please feel free to check out Tactics Fighter on your own.
All right, Kyrie, you're good to go. Right? Yeah, we can barely hear you. Ready? Check your microphone.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Verizon.
All right. So I can just start.
You're ready to go.
Okay. All right. Hello, I'm Kyrie Francis, and today I'll be presenting Tactics Fighter. That's my SIP project. I want to do that, not watch it. This is probably one of the worst criticisms a game can ever receive. After all, games are first and foremost about experience, yet I'm sure most people have watched a cutscene and have shared a similar sentiment. For me personally, I commonly had this thought when I was first introduced to turn-based RPGs. Coming off of games like The Legend of Zelda and Mega Man X, I wanted direct control of my character, like in action games, whereas RPGs and strategy games give you control over other aspects surrounding the characters. Simply put, I just didn't get it. I thought, why can't I swing the sword? I don't want to watch. It was in this spirit that Tactics Fighter came into my mind. So what is Tactics Fighter? Well, Tactics Fighter combines both turn-based tile strategy with a competitive and action-based fighting game genre. By combining these two genres, Tactics Fighter breaches new ground in gaming and offers a unique experience that demands both strategy and quick reflexes, offering endless depth to its players. So how does it work? Two players take control of their own team of swordsmen, archers, knights, and wizards, and they face off for control over key objectives. Commanding your army and positioning units is only half the fun of the game, though. When it comes time to compete for territory, the players will have to take their pawns into intense duels. The key to victory will be to position your units in advantageous locations to give yourself the best possible chance at winning the match. Real quick, similar games such as Valkyrie Chronicles have combined action games with a strategy game shell, and Tactics Fighter, and the action segments though tend to be more mini-game-ish with everything standing still and not too much going on in the action department, so it still feels very much more like a strategy game. Where Tactics Fighter, on the other hand, seeks to deliver a truly compelling fighting segments in addition to its strategy elements. It also has the extra element of competitive multiplayer that simply hasn't been reproduced in the past on this type of game. So let's see it in action. So this is the game. Okay. Here's some of the music. Okay, so you basically control, there's a red team and a blue team, and the whole goal of the game is to either kill all the units of the enemy team or to take control of these key capture points. So of these key capture points, which are these little castles. and they change color to denote that. If you control 3 of the castle points, then you have successfully defeated your opponent, and that's the gist of it. So now we're going to skip ahead a little bit to get into a little bit of combat. Yeah, right now we're just opening and we're positioning. Okay, it looks like it's about to start. Finish my turn. Sorry, it's coming. Okay. So we're gonna end the turn, and he's there. I'm gonna be attacked. So as you see, you enter this 2D perspective where you're gonna fight each other. And first at the top, we see each player's health bar. And right now it's 3 hits. The numbers are still being changed. But for this, it's that you spawn on these sides, and each terrain changes. The terrain changes based on which tile you attacked on. So, as this is the swordsman class, they can they have a normal melee attack. They can dash, like you see on the left over here, and the 100 you see over them, that's their stamina. So basically, the stamina system. If you have enough, your attack will come off, but you can go into the negative. But if you go negative, then you're exhausted, and you can't attack again until you reach 100. So we'll just have this combat play out. They get pretty hectic, and it is really fast right now. I'm hoping to tune it and tweak it, make it a little bit better. But for now, yep, so that's the sword class. And like I said, okay, so we're going to try to skip, because it takes a while to get to the tree combat. So I just want to show that one. Okay, here we go. Alright, so they can attack each other, and this is the tree zone. Players can actually reach the tree zone. The players can actually reach these branches. They just need to have a little bit of skill involved. The archer has a skill that's particularly suited to it to help give them an advantage on the spots. So now we're going to show the archer combat. So I can get someone close enough. Try to let it happen. Towards over here, yeah, it's about to happen. Yep. We're going to attack. Okay. Yep. So it just shows off the archer a little bit. They have this little down shot that gives them a little hop, and then they can shoot to the left and right, and the arrows stick in place. So this is just showing them off, and then we're gonna shoot them around. The swordsman dash can actually go through the arrows, so that's part of the swordsman skill, and it helps them get in closer to the range. So it's a little bit balanced there. Definitely needs some tweaking, and then we'll just show them. I just kind of skip ahead to the. Okay. That's the demonstration. So we're going to go into the conclusion. So Tactics Fighter seeks to make its players as active as possible. Players will take their time in between duels to make smart decisions and ready themselves for more fast-paced duels. Most importantly, that 10-year-old will finally be able to do everything. And this is the SIP website, just to show it off real quick. That's the intro video, some breakdown. That's a little bit of a devlog to show a bunch of updates. And that's my project, and thanks for watching.
All right, so Kyrie, you can hear me? I can hear myself echoing, yeah.
It's coming out of my speaker for some reason.
All right, so my question that I had was the same question I had for you before when we talked about this. And the idea is, but I think the action part could be, if somebody's really good at the action part, it kind of could make the whole strategy part useless. So what design aspects do you have to fix that, balance that, so that somebody's really good at the action, they can still use strategy to their advantage?
Okay, so to balance it up, because that was one of my problems, or one of my initial things that I wanted to tackle when I was looking at this concept, was that the initial round, if you won the combat section, you just killed the other unit. That was how it originally was, but I ended up updating it so that Now it's a lot less reduced impact. Like the life of a unit is now 3, and you only take 1 damage for losing the combat section. So that was a little bit there to limit the effect of the combat, and then the other side of it, so that the strategy part doesn't become too overpowered as well, is that if you win the combat section, it actually forces other units off those tiles. So you're competing over these spaces, and that comes into play when you're trying to capture those points.
All right, awesome.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric Fernald, and I'm here to present Operation Red Rhino. For those of you that have played shooter games over the last few years, let me ask you something. How many times do you choose the next map you're going to play on without giving it second thought? Maybe you'll pick your favorite map or the one you like the most out of the list of maps provided. Operation Red Rhino seeks to change that notion. Operation Red Rhino provides players a new level of strategy with their map choices. Every map choice you make for the next round has specific rewards designed to enhance your gameplay experience and make you think through your loadout choices.
Okay, Eric, you're good to go.
All right, so can you all hear me?
Yep.
All right, sounds good. So, hello everyone. My name is Eric Fernald, and I'm here to present Operation Red Rhino. This project involved many students over the course of 2 semesters, and as far as my role and responsibilities on the team went, I was the systems designer for the team, and my main responsibilities included creating and implementing the weapon data, roll data, recoil curves, and other various coding tasks. So Operation Red Rhino is a first-person shooter with teams and classes set in the 1950s era, specifically taking place in an African jungle, and there's 2 factions at war. You've got the African rebels and the US military, and what happens is these 2 factions are fighting to control certain sections of a predefined map area with nodes in all of them. One of the big pillars of this project is innovation through level design and our node system. So for example, you'll start in the middle map node, and from there, depending on which team wins or loses, you will advance to other nodes within this chart. You'll enter the node vote screen at the end of each round if you're on the winning team from the previous round. If you're on the losing side, then you have to wait it out and see which node the winning team wants to attack. So once it proceeds into the next node, you can select your loadout from there, and you'll start playing through the node. There will be certain objectives in each node that the teams will be trying to accomplish, and a time restriction in order to progress in a timely manner. Once you've charted a path through at least 3 of the nodes to reach the other team's base, you'll then compete on the base node. At the start, there's 3 initial roles, the top 3 you see there, the leader, the medic, and the rifleman. There's 6 roles in totals that you can expand out to, including the grenadier, the saboteur, and the scout. Each of these classes has certain abilities and certain weapons to help you accomplish your objectives on each node. For example, the saboteur node will have you planting explosives as your objective instead of trying to capture a certain control point. The saboteur node also has destructible environments in certain sections so that you can create pathways or holes through walls, doors, and windows to help you reach your objective. And now we get to the fun stuff. If this video plays, which I guess it's not. Nope. So In recent weeks, I've been focused on making improvements to the UI of the Node voting system, and I'm pleased to say that my work on this is now complete and functional. This new UI replaces what used to just be a text list and buttons. The new visual elements here give a visual aid that's clear to the player so that they know exactly what mode they are choosing. And that's supposed to be in this video right now. Actually, there we go. So as you can see, you can move your mouse around and vote on all the different nodes. And this used to just be a text screen, but over the last few weeks I've been working on my programming skills to put this together. Come on. All right. So, this game was built in Unreal Engine 4, specifically version 4.17.2, and Operation Red Rhino is currently slated to be released in the second half of 2018. So, at this point I'm going to open it up to questions.
All right, so Eric, you told me the other day that you got a job, and that was pretty awesome straight out of school, doing military stuff. So, tell me, how did this SIP project, how did working on this particular project help prepare you for this job that you got?
Well, I'm actually really glad you asked that, Matt, because a lot of what we did in this game is going to be directly translatable to my job going forward in the future at CGI. And one of the cool things about this is my hiring manager actually saw this game on my portfolio, and he came and talked to me about it during the interview. And one of the things he told me about is you should pitch this at our ICE program, which stands for Innovation, Creativity, and Engagement, which is basically like a corporate SIP fair kind of thing, where all these people come together, they present projects, and some of the best projects actually get funding. So he said, you know, this actually provides a unique opportunity to provide soldiers with a tool for close quarter combat, because we've got a lot of realistic mechanics in this game, such as like leaning, crouching, stamina, a bunch of different stance positions. And we also provide leaders a sort of tactical overview, so there would be some changes that would need to be made, but this has at the very least caught their attention. So I definitely think this is going to be something that isn't just going to be put down after they sit there, and will be something that carries on into the future.
All right, awesome. Thanks, man. Awesome.
All right, so that's it for this group. Now I can wrap us up.
All right, for those of you that have been here to a couple sessions, thank you again for being here to help your peers commemorate and kind of bring together their experience here and present in front of a crowd, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. You all have done a phenomenal job today. A big kudos to those of you who presented in this session, to your amazing faculty, SMEs, and to the support staff that helped bring this all together. Please visit the remaining sessions if you're able, including the celebrations for the game production studio. And make sure you circle back into the large commons around 3 p.m. We'll have munchies, and you'll be able to talk with the innovators of Spring 2018. Lastly, as I'm running out of breath because I seem to be holding it, make sure you come back to the theater tomorrow around 2:30. We are going to do our SIP Awards. We're going to do Green Light Awards. We're going to do the Brooke Casey Leadership Award. And for me, most important, the Mama Duck Award for your esteemed faculty. So thank you all for participating. Thank you all for supporting, and please come back to future sessions.